full moon glistens brilliantly in the nighttime sky, the same she has for millennia, cascading down and showering the earth with their beautiful milky glow, which turns to a blue hue. The air is crisp, cold from a harsh winter in WILLOW'S, Colorado, where throughout the U.S. it is now springtime. Those that live here have to wait until late May to see the flowers bloom and for the days to grow longer. There is a peculiar and perhaps tragic story behind the name of WILLOW'S. A story about a 15-year-old girl who was accused of witchcraft back in the 17th century. It was an era notorious of being ruled by unaccountable fear and frontier ignorance, and thus without proper trial or irrevocable truth. The child was set to be flogged and burned at the stake, all on account of an unbelievable story told by a few. Like many witch trials of that ignorant time, it was to be nothing more than a show of torture and perverted justice that was far worse than what the accused were damned for doing. Though this story's truth has evolved through the generations, the one constant bit that many failed to mark down as fact, that innocent 15-year-old girl, she deserved death. And in fact, this story is true. The real name of the town is called Massey. It's a play on the name of Massaquoi, a brave and renowned Ute Indian of the Southern Ute tribe, who was a great hunter and fierce warrior, back before American ancestors took over his land. His story and legend grew when he stood up against oppression and fought to keep the grounds from the invading and ever-populating intruders who came in droves from the east and west, hell-bent on making the untouched sacred land their own. For nearly a decade he fought. They all fought. He killed and maimed in the name of his pride, what was rightfully his by birth. Sadly, the intuitiveness and deepening pockets of the British, along with absolute power through arms, the trespassers overpowered him and his tribesmen. So he continued to rebel, and he was killed, with the thousands upon thousands before him. In body, in spirit, he ascended. To name the town in his memory, it's seen as much as an insult as it is an honor. Her name was Willow Amabella, a teenage girl who was accused of being one of Satan's unholy whores. Red-haired little darling, the only red-haired person who lived in the village of Massey. For most, that was strange enough, especially when her parents and 5 siblings were all gifted with brown. Easy to explain now in a more scientific age, but not so much back in those dark and paranoid days. She was the youngest of Lionel and Dina Amabella's 6 children, and also the runt. Willow nearly died through the birthing process. It was more than possible her parents would have preferred it to have happened. Willow was not planned, unlike her siblings. The Amabellas didn't own any land, a trait they did not share with the other, more noble families. They were not wealthy. They were not a lucky brood. First, 5 children were merely a means to an end. Boys who could grow into men of power, girls who could lead them. They were attempting a lottery, and their spawn were the tokens. It did not work. Everything Lionel had and gave to his family was from the sweat of his brow. He was making little to nothing from sowing weeds and collecting lumber from the surrounding forest, most times than not by himself. He was cheap and inexperienced. It was hard, laborious work, and in the end, the strain on his body from working all those long days every day is what killed him when Willow was only 7. Lionel was just 34. After her father's death, the story of her evil gets twisted and told differently every time. Some say Dina resorted to prostitution to keep her family fed, along with Willow's 2 sisters, 19-year-old Rosamond and 16-year-old Prudence. The girls had inherited a reputation for being fornicators, though they earned it rightfully. There wasn't a man or woman they would not bed if it meant fortune on their behalf. It was soon after Dina killed herself, and thus being a suicide, she was cast out into the woods, not buried nor adequately disposed of, and instead left to rot and be fed upon by the local wolves and birds of prey, all in the name of the village's savior, Jesus Christ. With Lionel dead, she was left to raise all her children alone. It proved too much of a challenge for the disloyal mother. She chose death over her offspring, never realizing she suffered from misopedia until after Lionel passed. Elling, Roth, and Giles Amabella, Willow's three older brothers, all started migrating toward other villages and homesteads, accepting work from the more prestigious families, while Rosamund and Prudence stayed behind with Willow. They resented Willow, blaming her for all their misfortune, yet never had the heart to abandon her, as they all grew in poverty, becoming too old in the process and therefore unfit to be wed to any self-respecting man. They had missed their chances of accepting a noble seed. It didn't help that the two girls were uglier than sin on the inside just as much as the outside. The date was March the 18th, 1632. Willow had just turned 15 years old, against surmountable odds. Prudence, her sister, had died 1 year prior from an unfortunate bout with pneumonia, and Rosamund had left Massey. She had heard of a settlement to the east that promised more out of life than just death and poverty. A new place called Boston, Massachusetts, where no matter your age, anyone could start anew with minimal talents. Even though the two were never as close as sisters should be, Rosamund asked Willow to leave with her. Willow declined. Willow said she'd rather be alone, living with a temperament that she was meant for nothing else besides punishment than to travel for something potentially better with a stranger, which is how she viewed Rosamund. Willow vowed to stay where her father and mother had died. And soon she was all alone, forced out of the village for being damned and unlucky by the Almighty himself. There was no other way for the villagers to see her, more than unwanted. They even gifted her the title, Willow the Unsaving. She became bitter, angry, and horrified. She had lived in the woods for 5 months, through a harsh summer, where fall hadn't come that year until late November, and then went straight to winter. As it always had, she fought to live. Malnourished, beautiful Ginger was now just a shade of whatever life and exuberance she once had. She looked like the devil, and it's not hard to understand why she harbored ill will towards the entire village that shunned her for her family's sins and misfortunes. She had never asked for any of it. Willow was once a sweet little girl who had a love for everything, as all children do. Instead of watering those roots of kindness, the township of Massey instead planted a flower in a bed made of dirt, shit, and malice. She often prayed for God when she was about to give up, for many, many days and nights. And when he didn't answer, she prayed to the devil. And when she was down to her last breath, that is when he responded. His words were sinister and full of lies, but he told her what she wanted to hear. All she had to do was listen. And listen she did. Lucifer had set her on a new path, a path to destroy Massey and send every living soul to hell for eternal damnation. And if she succeeded, Massey would then be hers to rule. First 2 times she snuck back into the village, she plundered used coal from the blacksmith along with a 12-inch piece of polished steel, some cook ingredients from the midwife, and finally a black ribbon and a brooch belonging to the woman who had hired her father all those years before, Lady Mildred Hartington. The lady was a wealthy woman who had the run of Massey because her late husband was a baron in their homeland of Hampshire, England. She was royalty, so she treated everyone who did not share her blood as slaves. Willow blamed Lady Mildred for her father's death, which in turn of events led to the downfall of her entire family and left Willow in her current state of bad luck. Reflect and Revenge was a Black Moon enchantment that focused on retaliation. Willow had no desire to kill the lady, as Satan ordered, just intended to direct her adversity back to the person who could lose even more than she had. With a 12-inch piece of polished steel to act as a reflective surface, she gathered the coal. The long part of the ribbon she stole from the lady and gathered ash from her fire. From me unto you comes back too. Willow incanted as she placed the bay leaf in the middle of the steel, pinched the ash, sprinkling it, and wrapped the black ribbon around it 4 times before tying with a solid bow knot. A simple spell meant to ruin the Lady Hartington of her wealth. She had no children, but she adored her monies more than life itself. Willow thought she had done well until within the next month, the animals that once called Massey home started to attack and ravage everyone Men, women, children, and newborns. Beasts that over time became tainted by the evil power brought on the Dark Lord himself. Wolves, only more vicious and with eyes as silver as the moon, with all the damned perversion of Satan, raining down death and misery. These weren't regular canines that roamed the woods. They were his hounds of hell, hunting like monsters, but they walked like humans on their hind legs. They were his demons, awakened to finish the deal that was put into place and to punish the disobedient Willow. All she had to do was let black magic in, and once Willow had, she no longer had control. The devil had his fill, and all was said and done. Out of the 200 townsfolk, only an unlucky 13 survived the bloody onslaught. The dark creatures retreated into the woods from whence they came. Surviving villagers followed, wanting vengeance and with nothing else to lose, ready to rid their world of these abominations. Fearful of their return, it was either do or die, so they followed the trail. Only instead of finding the dogs of death, it was rooted in the forest where they befell the home of Willow Amabella. Cozy nook she carved into the breast of a small rolling hill. Inside they found the steel, the ash, ribbon, tide, roach, all the proof they needed to abolish this world of that 15-year-old child. How, Willow? How could you have done this? They asked, but none heard nor saw the answers they were seeking. They had no intentions of believing Willow when she claimed that nobody was supposed to die. She had brought the most unholy into their homes, and because of her, there were no more heirs to carry on their pure bloodlines. Their ancestry was doomed. They cared not for excuses, even when she told them the truth of being cast out as her reasoning. She must have apologized and begged for forgiveness hundreds of times as she hung tied and nailed to a cross in the center of Massey. Fire beneath her rose as her screams of agony rang out, pain caused from her flesh blistering and burning. As she died, the only thing she could see was two silver eyes glowing in the darkness of the forest, staring back. A single devilish wolf left behind, almost to mock. She reflects on the foolish guarantee from the trickster that was never meant to be. In the end, she did his bidding and sent dozens to their death. He was strong, she was not. And soon she was set to join them all in the depths of hell. The charred corpse was buried so deep into the forest it is uncharted. Burial ground forever to be untold. Those who know of it are long dead by centuries. The secret of her grave gone with them forever. Still, when the moon turns full, you can hear the howling of the hound, echoing and piercing fear throughout the brush. A single entity left behind to curse the town forever and to send innocent souls back to the underworld, by spreading its disease from one unlucky carrier to another.
Present day. Winter. Amongst the stories of demon hounds and witchcraft which plagued this town's history, it gets lost that Willow's Howe has always looked breathtakingly beautiful in the winter. In the daytime when the sun beams off the fresh powder, even night when the air is so crisp and clear it's an astronomer's dream. Every star in the nighttime sky visible with a naked eye. Summer, fall, and spring had its say in the matter, but ask anyone who is from this small town or those who have driven through it. Nothing beats the winter. The sparse mountains and rolling hills that swallow the city right in the middle of its bosom. When the snow comes, the white blankets the trees, forming majestic curtains. The elegance is so overwhelming, and even makes locals completely forget about the 10 grisly murders all within the last year. Willow's Howe is not only sitting on buried myths of legendary beasts, but also corpses. You're still upset with me, aren't you? Oliver Montfort asks his wife Favor, after only 5 weeks of dating. He looks worried. After all, isn't every day you convince a woman you just met to be wed, by eloping, especially when her parents have yet to meet him. Even at the introduction dinner, they were to tell her mother and father, yet chickened out. Diarrhea, Ollie. Seriously, I thought you said you were going to tell them. What happened in there? Favor asks. Her soft, gorgeous umber skin is begging to be caressed. She's wearing a purple dress and butterfly brooch. Daughter of an African-American father and an Asian mother. Only child, For parents have always been protective of their daughter. The longer we wait to tell them, the harder the judgment is going to be. You're never... Hey, I'm sorry, okay? I messed up. I will tell them. We will tell them. Oliver looks out the driver's side window of his Range Rover. He's shorter than Favor, by an inch at 5'8". When? I don't know. Not yet. The visions of what her father would do to him are frightening. Larry Nan being Favor's 6'3", 225-pound veteran of a war father. Tough son of a bitch, but most importantly proper and respectful. It's easy to see why Favor and Oliver, mostly, would be too scared of telling him they eloped without his consent, or Favor's mother, Jasmine's. Probably because Larry would have smacked them both in the head, screaming, "What the fuck is the matter with you two assholes?" Now it's just been the thought of the two proposing marriage, let alone actually going through with such an absurd plan, without them, her parents. Oliver's 28, and Favor is 19. That could also be the problem. We love each other, don't we? Favor asks him. Oliver scoffs. Of course we do. We didn't make a mistake? Well, not unless it doesn't work out. Oliver sardonically replies. Ollie, I'm serious, did we? Babe, how could I honestly look at you and say that marrying you was a mistake? I know your worth. You weren't gonna wait forever. And what's that mean? Fave, guys like me don't get women like you. Off of my looks, Ollie? I thought you married me for my heart. Heart? Hell no. That ass. Favor smiles, knowing her husband is joking. My father's gonna say it was a mistake. Well, maybe your father's just too old to understand. I don't know, he understands more than you know, Ollie. What about your mom? She's a romantic at heart, so I'm sure she'll find something positive in our decision. Alright, listen. Oliver reaches out his right hand and places it on Favor's thigh, reassuring her. I know you love your dad. Stories you've told me, he sounds like a strict but fun dad. A good dad. He also has my respect for serving. He's braver than me. He's a vet like my pops. Your mom too. I would never do anything to piss them off or disrespect them, but I love their daughter so damn much it makes me want to do stupid shit. For that, I won't apologize. Ollie, no one is asking you to apologize. Then why make me feel like crap? I'm not trying to, we just have to tell them. And as I said, we will, just give it another week. Or the year. Favor smiles as she playfully smacks Oliver's arm. His car speeds through Terrace and Avenue, a secluded road that is only 10 miles long from east to west. Private residences are far between, a home every mile on either side of the asphalt. Far off the beaten path, the home is reserved for only those who can afford to live in such a peaceful and private land. Overhead, the full moon shines brightly, showering the surrounding thick forest with her white waves of color. The frigid air sliding in and out of the treetops as darkness blankets the ground below. Oliver rubs Favor's thigh for a few more seconds before bringing it back towards him, combing his fingers through his hair, secretly stressing out. Favor deserved a traditional wedding, big and loud, booze and loose inhibitions for the groomsmen and bridesmaids, even those who are already married. Thousands spent, potentially, in hopes the couple lasts. They both were too worried about their parents' opinions regarding their status. Her father would have objected for the simple reasoning of age, as where his father would have objected due to Favor being, well, his father was raised in a time which tended to be pretty ignorant towards folks whose skin wasn't white, something Ollie has always tried to keep hidden. However, this stress is no secret. Oliver wears it on his sleeve like his other emotions, though Favor thinks it's cute. You're sexy when you're scared. Oh yeah? He shrugs it off, knowing she's making fun. I think so. Yeah, I guess you're right. There's just something about your dad slitting my throat. Yeah, it's turning me on too. He wouldn't slit your throat. Okay. Seriously? She laughs. My dad would more than likely shoot you instead. He was a sniper after all. Not if I serpentine. I'm quicker than... Oliver never gets to finish his sentence as he has to quickly swerve out of the way, avoiding hitting the tail end of his neighbor's red Mercedes-Benz. "What the hell, Ollie?" Favor shouts, her neck having jerked hard. "What the hell, Ollie?" he asks as he slams his foot on the brakes. He turns to look at the Mercedes-Benz through his rear window. It's parked near the entrance of a driveway but turned towards the woods. The engine in the car is still running. You can't make out her features, but there's a blonde-haired woman with her head down sitting in the passenger seat. Fucking Romani. Douchebag. He lays heavily on the horn, but the woman doesn't look. Is she sleeping? Favorite questions. Probably pissed drunk. Wouldn't be the first fucking time. Oliver rolls the back passenger side window down halfway. Hey, dummy! You okay? The woman says nothing. Can you hear me? Do you even speak English? What the hell? She only moves subtly, shifting back and forth for only a split second. There, she's right as rain. Fucking bimbo. He rolls the window back up. That doesn't look like the woman he had a week ago, Favor observes, not able to take her eye off the car. There's something not right and it's unsettling to her. I guarantee that's not even the same woman as last night. He's a playboy with money to blow, what do you expect? Different gold digger every second, rich prick. She's fine. Probably no morals and disappointed parents, but she's fine. Let's go. Oliver. Favor continues to stare. Should we help him? With what? He asks. Favor has yet to meet Ollie's elusive neighbor. Oliver has lived next to Romani for nearly 3 years. It's part of the norm to see him with a different woman every time he sees him. Most of the times they're both drunk or high. Why are they parked there? Isn't that his house just up the drive? He's been drinking and went on an adventure. You know, I found him in my backyard a couple of times. Drunken misadventures are normal. It's just who Romani is. He'll be okay? I think you should go look for him. Hell no! What about the animals? What animals? He doesn't have any. In the woods. Aren't there any dangerous animals out there? Favor. There isn't anything dangerous in these woods. Without another thought, Oliver shifts the car into drive and speeds home. Heading further down the road as Favor fatefully turns her head away from Romani's car. As the taillights disappear from sight, something budges the blonde-haired woman as she slowly falls forward, smacking her head on the dash. The interior light shines off the liquid forming from her neck, revealing a deep gash that reaches from the nape all the way around to her throat. Her blood still fresh, still warm, flowing down her open, plunging dress line, cascading over her rather large bust. Her spine is visible from the carnage. There are sounds of crunching bone and tearing of flesh. The passenger side of the Mercedes is dented and the door is ripped open. On the ground, half submerged behind the brush, is a pair of legs being furiously torqued to and fro. It's Romani. More than that, something is feasting on his innards. Something large, hulking in mass and covered in dense black fur. It stands up, stretching its muscles and bones as Romani's ravaged head stares at the sky with a permanent look of bewilderment. This beast lets out a moan of bliss as the hot breath exhales from its lungs, mixing with the cold air outside. A large stream of carbon dioxide forms into a massive cloud. It turns its attentions further down the road before it growls. It stomps on Romani's body before it sprints off into the woods, slamming its heavy weight into the frozen soil as it propels itself with tremendous force. The branches that hang low from the trees snap easily from its massive frame. It's heading east, after Oliver and Favor. So, when do we want kids? Favor asks, blindsiding Oliver. He swallows hard and raises his brows. Kids? Oh, yeah, smiles Favor, lost in thought at the possibility. We're married now. We're gonna have children. I've always wanted 4, 2 boys and 2 girls. You move pretty quick, don't you? Close to you. That's fair. Let me guess. You have a problem with kids? No, just don't think I'm ready. Still too immature. Maybe even for a while longer. See? And having kids will ground you. I mean, we have a big enough house. Plenty of money in the bank, your career is at its peak, I'm ready, and you're ready. We're ready. You think I'm psychologically ready to be responsible for ensuring life is safe in my hands? for at least 18 years. I'm completely irresponsible. You'll be fine, Ollie. that's what drives me crazy about you. What? You have such a naive disposition of how the real world works. And what does that mean? Nice question with a question. Listen, every time we talk about anything, your answer is always the same. You'll be fine. It'll be fine. We'll be fine. Fine, 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 fine. Rainbows and candy canes with you. I'm just showing encouragement. It's better than being so damn dramatic and pessimistic. No, realistic. On occasion, I've also been known to be optimistic, but more so realistic. River turns back to her side as she looks out the window. She mumbles to herself, "You're getting me fucking pregnant." Oliver smiles. "Oh, I'll try to be optimistic about it." The trees pass by in a blur. It's pitch black darkness, yet the beast has no problem navigating through the night. The blackness is its hunting ground, where it strives, where it lives, where it eats. It's not a weakness. Right now, the beast is hungry and angry, needing to rip something apart with its 6-inch long claws to calm its rage. Yet the passion is insatiable. With each thud of its feet into the cold, hard ground, the closer it gets to its next meal. The speed and finesse are supernatural. Every single stride equals the same as 10 feet from an Olympic runner. So agile, it seems as if it were gliding. Absolutely nothing will stop it from the feeling of more blood pooling under its nails and the exhilaration of its prey falling victim to the severely large fangs protruding upwards from the abnormally large underbite. Jaws that can bite through steel and human bone as easily as celery sticks. Oliver's taillights become clear again. This hidden behemoth is catching up and fast to a car which is speeding more than 55 miles per hour. A sense of hopelessness can befall any soul, as it'd be pointless of trying to outrun the death this creature is bringing along. If a speeding car can't even escape, the savage endingness seems quite inescapable. Ever since she was a young girl, Favor felt like she was destined for great things. And here she is, an aspiring model with a husband who owns and runs one of the most successful apps in the world. Draftcraft, a social application for every mobile phone and tablet where anyone in the world can log on and submit poems and short stories for global recognition. Or they could upload it anonymously if the writer feels awkward or scared with the attention their work might gather. Great for teenage writers and even adults who battle depression and anxiety but still want their stories to be heard. What Oliver had created was a forum which helps, dedicated to his older brother whom he loves. Favor has zero regrets towards the man she promised to love faithfully for the rest of her days. When she recited "I do," Favor meant it with every ounce of love she's able to give. She also knew he had the money, which wasn't everything, but it is something, like security. I've always liked the names Sebastian and Avery. You know, for boys' names, Ada and Lorette for girls, she says, lost in her thoughts. Oliver rolls his eyes. You're still on this? Absolutely. French names too? Most. My dad is from NOLA. It's sort of a tradition in our family. Favor, babe. Let's just tell our parents that we're married before we seriously start considering kids. Please? Fine. When should we tell your parents? Dinner tomorrow night? You shitting me? No, your parents first. Why? Simple. I don't fear my parents. We'll tell them last, they can deal with it. Your dad scares the crap out of me. She smirks. She had learned to respect her father from a strict childhood where respect was taught, but she was never genuinely fearful of him, as many have been and still are. After all, she is his little girl and she'd have very little reason to fear him. Do you remember what your dad said to me the first time I talked to him on the phone? Do you remember that time? Ollie asked. Favor has no idea, but she can imagine. No, what? She smiles, waiting to see what her father said to take the piss out on Ollie. You hurt, or in any way taint my daughter, I will kill you and bury you in our crawl space down in the cellar. You hear me? I've killed men in the war. I have no reservations on killing a little bitch. She can't help but let out a laugh, deep within from her diaphragm. He called you a bitch? Ollie's not amused. Yeah, he called me a bitch and I fucking took it.
He was only trying to scare you, Ollie. God, you're such a wimp. You hear how she talks to me? He says to himself. You two can name call me all you want, but you are going to answer me one question. Yeah? She's still laughing. Sure. Do you, or do you not, have a crawl space in the basement? Are you serious right now? Can't we wait until we get home before I answer your stupid questions? Answer the damn question, woman. Yes or no? Yes, we do. Oliver exaggerates, sighing, holding his right hand to his head, pretending to be overly worried. Only he isn't acting. Oh, God, your dad's gonna be so upset. Not as upset as my mom was. Favor lets it slip, and Oliver catches it quick. Turns his attention entirely towards his wife, not even looking at the road. Sorry? You say was? Oh, no, you wait a shit minute. You already told her? I kinda, sorta, maybe, possibly, yeah, I told my mom. Of us getting married. Mm-hmm. Seriously? Yep. Tonight? When? Oliver tries to find the correct response, but instead, he ends up making a bunch of nonsensical sounds. What? I can't. Oh, how there? You fucking killed me. You proud of yourself? You have just killed your husband. You have, for unknown reasons, signed my death warrant, and then to boot, signed, sealed, and delivered the fucking thing right up my ass, Favor. God, you're so dramatic. I can't even right now. Even I can't. All the evens, I can't any of them. Wow. They reach their driveway. 30 meters of off-road that turns off Terracing straight towards their paradise in the woods. I'll tell you right now, if we do have children, I'm naming the first kid either Dirk or Mildred, just to spite you. He threatens. I actually like Mildred. Okay, fine. I'll call our daughter Keith and our son. Favor smiles and can't help but chuckle. It lasts only for a second. Something large and fast emerges from the woodline and slams directly into Favor's side of the SUV. For only a moment that passes so quickly it seems to take an eternity as the Range Rover tips. Passenger side tires leave the ground as the sudden impact causes Oliver's head to knock against the window, cracking the glass. The vehicle manages to balance itself before the weight corrects and falls back to four tires. Oliver's head is spinning as a persistent ringing sounds in his ears. He's surely concussed. There's moans and screams coming from somewhere, but he's unable to place it. It takes only a few moments when he finally manages to make sense of his situation and turns toward his newlywed, only to bear witness of her being ravaged by a set of jaws that reach up to a foot in diameter. This creature, this tall, muscular, furry behemoth of a monster is tearing apart his love. The same ferocity as a piece of paper inside of a tornado full of razors. Its massive forearms beating down on her frail body. Its talon-like claws inserted deep within her abdomen and chest, touching and scraping the bone, before ripping her skin, pulling it off in chunks. Favor reaches for Ollie, pleading and begging for help as the last straw. It does no good. Oliver strains as he lifts his arm, his head bleeding, thinking to himself, "Fucking grab her! Help her!" Only his body does not want to respond to his actions. As soon as the world begins to close back in, his head stops spinning, the beast pulls Favor towards his muscle-bound chest, hugging her body with lust in its silver eyes, with more passion than Oliver ever could give her. Only he isn't looking for love, but for food. With a yank, the passenger door begins to shake as the pure brute strength of the beast bends the steel and hinges right off the car, breaking Favor in half as well. The wife's final screams and crying play like a broken record that will not stop skipping. The door collapses to the ground and Favor gets taken back into the darkened woods, escorted by the ferocious beast to the very spot he will eat her alive. No one knows for sure what they'll do, say, or feel the moment they realize they are going to die, even if they see it coming. Regrets over lost times and chances not taken, maybe.
or if the journey of one's life does actually play out before their very eyes. Does it differ from dying naturally in sleep or of old age, car collision, being shot down by a depraved individual, or having your life snuffed by a serial killer, knowing their face will be the last thing you see? Does any of it matter? Are they relevant? After all, death is death, and there is no coming back from it. Dying old or being killed young, death is a scary thing in itself, an ending that is already written before we're ever born. A story that no one can change or alter. All one can do is hope. Hope for a good life and easy death. For someone like Favor, she never thought in a million years that she would be devoured underneath an oak tree, her body littered with pine needles and rotten leaves, while her insides are being feasted on by a monster of legend. At that moment, she knows there must be a God, for she is being sent to him by the devil himself. Favor? Favor? Oliver's voice cracks as he stumbles and trips over his own feet as he stands on the edge of the forest in his driveway, too scared to venture inside even to find his beloved. Never before has he been this frightened to enter these woods. Never before did he know when he stared into the trees, something was always staring back. He's a coward, pussy chicken. It's easy to call names and question bravado of a man testing their true intentions in the false name of love. Changes bravery. You think all the answers are already given, and someone asks different questions. In these woods is certain death. He's not ready to die. But for most, it is rarely up to them when their time comes. Only the blood-curdling and hoarse howl that surges from the dark is a firm hint that Oliver's time is next. And it is soon, judging by how loud it is getting. Whatever it is hiding within the thick brush, it's coming back for him. 80 meters. Oliver has to make a decision now. 75 meters. Tears pour from his eyes as he turns toward his car. 60 meters. Admittedly leaving Favor to her fate, he jumps back in the driver's seat. 40 meters. The key is turning, but the engine will not start. 30 meters. Another try, another fail. It will not roll over. 20 meters. Please, please fucking start, he begs the car. 15 meters. The pounding of the beast's feet is right behind the trees. Please, he shouts as the engine finally roars. 10 meters. He shifts into drive and peels off just as the beast leaps and misses the back end of the SUV by only a hair. Running at such velocity, he cannot correct his body mass mid-flight. The luminance of the brake lights reflect off the silver eyes. The eyebrows arch and the top lip curls. It reveals a row of razor-sharp canines, still red from feeding on Favor. The blood still freshly covering the snout, hard palate, and tongue. Still hungry. If not for sustenance, then for the unbridled rage. It simply must kill Oliver. The paws slam into the dirt road, except it has fingers. They are curled up, giving each tendon a chance to propel it fast and hard into a sprint. Oliver's panicking and has all but forgotten Favor. He's nowhere to go except straight, continuing up the drive to his home. Perhaps if he can barricade himself inside, he can call the police and get help before it's too late. Looking into the rear view and passenger side mirrors, he's expecting the beast to emerge and try to finish him off. And the beast would have an easy in, since the door has already been ripped off the hinges, with bits of Favor's skin still hanging as bait. He's so concerned about the creature entering from the right, he never takes into consideration to look to his left, where the beast is not only keeping up with the rover, but is easily outrunning it. It lunges at the unsuspecting Oliver, slamming into the car and breaking through the cracked window. The claws plant firmly within Ollie's shoulder as the man hollers in pain. Oliver tries getting free as he inadvertently turns the wheel too sharply as the SUV careens off the driveway and slams into a tree. The beast gets flung off. Oliver has no time to feel pain as the beast within seconds is already emerging through the night, ripping him from the driver's seat before Oliver even has a chance to react. The hellhound grips tighter around his throat before slamming him into the cold ground. The monster is relentless. There's no use of fighting or crying or screaming. Oliver's dead either way. He cannot stop himself from doing all three. The teeth press firmly against his throat, and at first, Oliver feels nothing. Just a little tightness. His shouts become silent,
feels fatigued. Moments pass before he even feels the blood pooling up through his throat before it pours from his mouth. For him, it's bitter. For his murderer, it's the nectar from which life is made. The full moon shines down into Oliver's eyes, an eyewitness to his death. She will be the last thing he ever sees, like so many before.